Thank goodness I changed the title. So we're not talking about death today. We're talking about a sensible viewpoint. That's what the talk is going to be today. Switch that during the week. So our wonderful religious science, New Thought teaching promotes self-knowledge and spiritual conscious growth. That's why we gather here on Sundays. The path it teaches us to returning to our innate wholeness, the truth of who we really are. These beautiful beings of light, that's who we are. And it reminds us that we draw strength and wisdom from the spiritual universe by looking where? Outside?
No.
Within. By looking within. So, our teachings today, we're going to discuss 4 aspects of our teaching. Practical, positive, passionate, and personal. So those are the 4 aspects of religious science that we're going to talk about today, this beautiful teaching that we have. And how they combine to give us a sensible viewpoint of the lives that we live. And I believe that this sensible viewpoint that New Thought offers us is also a higher point of view. It's moving from looking and being in the challenges and the conditions, all the joy of life, and just going up, kind of like in your mind to the mountaintop, to look down upon. It's more expansive, much more expansive from that place. And once we start to live from that higher viewpoint, it becomes the only thing that makes sense. I don't know about you, but the reason I love these spiritual principles, this teaching, Science of Mind, New Thought, is because it makes perfect sense to me. It really makes sense. So when something makes sense to us, we can embody it more. So without further delay, we'll move right on to the first aspect, which is practical. It's practical. Holmes says, there is a power for good in the universe, and you can use it. He said that he had a radio show in, I think, the late 40s and early 50s, and he would open every program with that. And he also wrote in Living the Science of Mind. The science of mind, he says, is intensely practical because it teaches us how to use mind discipline for definite purposes, such as, and we know this in treatment, helping those who are sick, impoverished, or unhappy. Each one of us, he writes, should learn to become a conscious user of its power. Power already exists, but the existence of power is of no particular use to us until we use it. And it's like that great analogy. You can stand in a dark room, and know that there is electricity. You know there's electricity, and you're waiting for the light to come on. You can pray all you want, but until you turn the light switch, it doesn't come on. It doesn't come on. You're in the dark. So that's the practical aspect that we're talking about today. So this is not just a come to church Sunday kind of event that we do. Nice to come and hear the message and then go out Monday and forget about everything that we might have really made sense to us and really embodied on that in Sunday. So you can certainly do that, but it doesn't serve you. If we are consciously creating, which I think that's why we gather, to remind each other that we want to live happy, joyful lives. And so we come here with like-minded people so that we can be reminded of that. So, as you feel very, very strongly about the class, well, as you know, I feel and we feel here at Joyful Gathering very, very strongly about the classes we offer. And we have 4 going on right now, so that's like really pretty cool. You know, we have 4 classes and they're all well attended, so I'm very excited about that. But we teach in those classes how to live a spiritual and happy life, and how to use these principles that we talk about, how to really use them. We explore a new way of thinking and a new way of being in the world. We also emphasize that it takes repetition. It takes practice. over and over again so that we can move into this lighter way, this more joyful way of being. And as Dale Allen Hoffman said last week, he was great. Wasn't he great, everyone?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Shout out to you, Dale Allen Hoffman. He's coming back again, too. He was just amazing. But he said, and Colin Tippin says the same thing, you know, we do this to shift our BS, our belief system. So that's what this is all about, moving that BS. Get it out and just move into a place of lightness, of happiness. And you might say New Thought can be compared to, and I like this analogy, a super deluxe Swiss Army knife. If any of you have had them, I actually have had one, I don't know why, but I had one. And it's like, how many of those gadgets do you use? You know, I used like one or two. The little scissor one was really handy too. But it was like, right, the knife and the scissor, I don't know what I did with the knife. Anyway, another lifetime, don't let me go there. Oh, so it's the same thing, it's the same thing with a computer. How many, and your phones, your smartphones, how many different gadgets and tools are in there, but if we don't take the time to learn how to use them, they just sit there, right? So it's practical. It's the same thing with these spiritual principles that we talk about. So yes, we go to a New Thought Center, that's what this is, but do we learn and then practice the principles when we need them? That's why we really offer these classes, and the new one, I think it's going to be, it's going to be Abundance and the Law of Attraction. That's going to be the new one. And we come together to really learn how to use these principles that Ernest Holmes is talking about in his great books. So in the middle of difficult circumstances, which, yeah, we all go through them, we're living life, have we trained ourselves to stop and say, what am I learning right here, right now, even when it's going on? Because this is part of retraining our belief system, our way of thinking. So it serves us so much higher. In the middle of it, are we saying, I know that there is a power for good and it's present right here and right now, and this is all happening for a reason. Mm-hmm. That's what we do. We stop and say that. I claim it now. I'm always guided. Clarity is taken, however you connect with these principles, with the infinite I am, however you connect with it. That's the beauty of the practicality, actually, of these teachings. Mm-hmm. I refuse to believe in anything other than this. I don't care what's going on. Our affirmative prayer, treatment, that our most powerful tool that we have. You heard Veronica do it today. Over 4 years, the practitioner is trained to learn how to use this tool. Really, to understand the depth of the creative process, which this prayer is based on, it's rooted in. If you don't understand how it works, then you can't really do an effective prayer, and that prayer really works. Experimental psychologist Martin Seligman once wrote, one of the most significant findings in psychology in the last 20 years is that individuals can choose the way they think. Mm-hmm. Just found that out. Wow. He was echoing the philosopher and father of psychology, William James, who wrote, "The greatest discovery of my generation is that a human being can alter his life by altering his attitude and mind." Ernest Holmes said, change your thinking, change your life. All of whom were echoing the master teacher, mm-hmm. Jesus, who said at Roman Centurion, he said this, "As thou hast believed, so be it done unto thee." Or perhaps it was Buddha. Everyone was echoing Buddha, who 600 years before Jesus said, all we are is a result of what we have thought. All the great masters have said this forever, because it's the only truth that exists. So practically really believing and knowing this is what alters and changes everything. So it doesn't matter who really said it first. What matters is that New Thought religious science teaches us how we can think differently. We have a choice to think differently as situations occur. We can do it different this time. Maybe we'll get a different outcome, a different effect. You think?
Yeah.
You know.
So an important thing to remember is this, we do this whole, it feels good, it's really right, but things do occur. The challenges happen in life. And remember, and I've said this before because I love it, when you're going through hell, don't stop and build a condo. Keep on going. Because sometimes we hang out in that place and it really stinks. It's like enough already, I'm moving. So the next aspect is this teaching is positive. It really is. And not just positive, as Mary Morrissey would say, Pollyanna-ish, which I still don't even know what that means. But it means something like, not just feeling good, it's more than that. There's a depth to this teaching. There's such a depth. It's much, much deeper. And so we look to God. When we do look to God, we recognize that the great I am is at the core, I want to say cause too, the core and the cause of all that is, was, and ever shall be. And we call this right thinking. And that's how we define righteousness in religious science. Right thinking. Not right because it's morally superior or better, but rather a way of thinking that works, that serves us. Much better than wrong thinking in our lives. Because remember, everything is based on the law of cause and effect. So what you're thinking is what's showing up in your life. And as you've heard, if you want to know what's going on in your mind, take a look around you and see the people you're hanging out with and see what's going on in your life. So Holmes also wrote in Science of Mind, that which thought has done, thought can undo. This is good. Lifelong habits of wrong thinking can be consciously and deliberately neutralized. Merely to abstain from wrong thinking is not enough. There must be active right thinking taking place. And he continues, skipped over that. We should take the highest thought we have and attempt to enlarge on this consciously until it embraces a more vital concept of reality. If one wishes to demonstrate prosperity, he must have a consciousness of prosperity. If one wishes health, he must embody the idea of health. More faith, then he must embody the idea of faith. And he writes, he ends it with, it is this knowledge that we are dealing with. This is how we deal with the law, by how we think. If we want more prosperity and well-being in our life, are we like looking at what we don't have? Because if we're looking at what we don't have, we're creating more of what we don't have. It's that fine line. It's really a discipline, but it's a positive way to know that we can shift and choose what we think and then what we experience. So, if you believe that you're in a locked room, and you believe it so firmly that you don't even try to open the doors, thinking that they are locked. So you're in this room, and you don't even open the doors, and you're trapped. The results are the same. The results are the same as if that door was actually locked and you couldn't get out. And so the truth is that you are free to go. Your belief is what keeps you stuck in that room. It keeps you from opening the door. So the effect is the same. Freedom, that you're in bondage then. The freedom is opening the door, which was never locked. And I have a great example of this. I was going to cut it out, but then I knew everybody would say, don't cut it out, so I put it in. So this is about elephants. Right? And do you know that elephants were trained to be beasts of burden? So you can think of that song. Go ahead.
Rolling Stones.
So the trainer, thank you, the trainer captures the elephant and tethers one of the legs to a giant tree with a chain, right? And the elephant struggles and struggles to get free from that tree. So it pulls against the chain and pulls against the chain, and it finally realizes that it can't move. And then the trainer ties the elephant's leg with a rope. So after a few months it moves it to a different modality of tying him, so it uses a rope and repeats the same process. And later the trainer can tie the elephant with something even lighter until finally, if he can take the elephant into the jungle where it labors uncomplainingly, tethered with the reed of a lotus flower. That's all it needs, because at this point the elephant will not even think that it can move. It believes that it is tethered, that it is tied to that tree, that it is captured. And aren't we sometimes like the elephant with our beliefs? Are we not sometimes like the elephant? That we believe in this power of limitation, it really has no power, but we believe it so firmly that we're like chained, when it really is a lotus. It's just a lotus branch that's holding us. It's something we can pull away from if we but believe it. It's that believing. If we are feeling limited or tethered in some area of our lives, we can break free at any moment. Change your thinking, change your life. We are free to choose a new thought, a right thought. That's what right thinking is. It's an alignment with these spiritual principles which bring us freedom, freedom to be who we really are. We may not be able to move right away to the affirmative side of life. It might take that repetition, the practices. And so it might not happen overnight, but that's why we have a support system. This is a support system right here. This is a spiritual support system. I've said that. That's why I come. That's why I'm here. I'm here every Sunday. Well, I have to be. I want to be here. I don't have to be. I want to be here every Sunday because I love being around like-minded people. It fills my soul. And it's so very important. So this teaching can change your life for the better by teaching us how to look at the affirmative side of life, the higher point of view. And then we move into the third aspect of this teaching, passion. So this teaching is passionate. A life lived in true spirituality is a passionate and alive life. So I'm going to illustrate that type of passion by the story that I have. There was once a farmer who had a female pig. He decided that he wanted to raise pigs. So he made arrangements with a farmer nearby in a town over a little bit to breed his pig with that farmer's male pig. On the appointed day, the farmer loaded his pig onto his truck and drove to the nearby town, and the breeding process began. The owner of the female pig said to the other farmer, "How will I know if this has taken?" And he said, "Well, if she's walking around in circles, then you know it's good. It's taken. Then you'll know." The next morning, the farmer looked out his window with hope in his heart, right? Wants to breed pigs, only to find her wallowing in the mud as usual. So he loaded her back into the truck and back to the breeder and repeated that process again, only to look out the window the next day and see the pig wallowing in the mud again. And so, frustrated for the third time, he loaded the pig into the truck and he took it to the breeder. And so the next morning, he couldn't bear to look out the window. And so he had his wife look at it, and he asked, "Well, is she lying in the mud?" "No," said the wife. Excitedly, the farmer says, Is she walking around in circles?" And she said, "No." And he said, "Well, what in the world is she doing?" And the wife said, "She's sitting in the truck honking her horn." And so,
What's a drummer when you need one?
and so, are you sitting in the truck, is what I want to know, honking the horn? Or do you have some passion about your life? As an example. Are you enthusiastically embracing the fullness of the gift within us? I know some people have to explain it to others. It's fine. Jesus told us not to hide our light under a bushel. Yes? So let it shine from the mountaintop. We are called to live. And the divine nature as you is calling you to wake up and live a bigger, a braver, a more dynamic way of being in this world. And let it work through you. And so we get finally to the fourth aspect of this. It's an important aspect, very, very important one, personal. Is this teaching personal to you? And again, Holmes in Science of Mind, which I'm not reading that. So our personal relationship, he writes a lot about the personalness of God. God has individually expressed itself as each and every one. And each one has within them this beautiful personality and light and who you really are. Each and every, and none of them are the same. That's the beauty of it. Our personal relationship in the divine feeds and fuels us. This is the thing when we turn within that really fuels us to live a life of joy, of passion, of happiness. When we do get to have a personal, direct relationship with God in this teaching. We believe that God is personal to all who feel this indwelling presence. That we are individualized creations of this nature and we can never be separated from the divine love. That is true. That is the truth of who we are. It is our eternal, joyful, grateful, whoever we are, divine self. And so there you have it. We have the four aspects: practical, positive, passionate, and personal. And I want to leave you with a daily thought, which I thought was really good, from Science of Mind magazine, from Reverend Jesse Jennings. He writes, I've discovered that a lot of things that didn't make the least bit of sense to me when I first encountered the Science of Mind teaching now makes more sense than anything else before or since. Perhaps it would be a good idea to note that in our teaching material, dear student, please don't worry if this material contradicts all the other information in your head. You didn't believe most of that information the first time you heard it either. So it's kind of like when we do foundations class and people start shifting by the 5th or 6th class, and that's when we do our addendum thing where you can't go back because you've woken up that light within you. You've ignited the light within you. So what emerges from a steady practice of the affirmative life, which is what we are on that pathway of, that journey, makes me forget that there was even a time when I felt truly separate. I mean, I go through stuff in life where that separation feeling occurs, but the very core of my being knows that there is a power for good and it is within me. That light of the divine is within each and every one. And it's almost like I can't even remember the other teachings that didn't make sense, because this one really made sense. And it's so powerful and it's so good. And all the good that I could possibly imagine and you could possibly imagine is already at hand. And this has been repeated in everything we read, every lecture we hear. It's all within you. So that's the depth of knowing that it's all within you is what we are really, I don't want to use the word strive, but it's what we're really uncovering. It's what we're really uncovering. So Science of Mind then moves from being just a technique to a whole way of living life. In thinking, in feeling, in our actions, as though the very best of everything is fully, magnificently present, because truly it really is. And so as we deepen our belief into that, that's when we live the good life. So I'm wishing all of us a great life, a wonderful life, a life that is well lived, right here, right now, and so it is.
So it is.